The world moves in trends, and the trend of recent years has been watches with integrated bracelets. What's interesting is that this trend started around the 1970s, and it was during the pandemic when it exploded again, thanks to watches that generated a lot of hype. As of today, they have become the most popular style, and many brands have adopted this trend of integrated bracelets. But why are they so popular? To find out, the Venezianico team sent me their new model, the Arsenale. And here are the specifications of the watch. This is their sporty model with an integrated bracelet, which they did really well. Integrated bracelet watches are very popular because I think the design is aesthetically appealing. As it is, the design never truly ends. It is a linear design that doesn't break. For example, if it was a watch with a regular strap, there's a break between the watch head and the strap. Or with a normal bracelet, there is a break between the watch case and the bracelet. In the case of integrated watches, I feel it's a much more aerodynamic design that makes sense in terms of design continuity and finishing. For instance, we can see here the faceting on the case sides, and there's continuity throughout the watch bracelet. It has a high gloss finish that continues all throughout the corners of each link. And all of this design language makes it much more visually appealing because everything fits together perfectly, and it is extremely symmetrical. Add to that how the links interact with light, the high gloss finish of the bezel, and undoubtedly the most eye-catching feature of this watch, the dial with those finishings and of course the purple color. And it becomes a show that you can't stop looking at. First, because the light reflecting off the links will always catch your attention due to the different facets and finishings on each individual link. And second, because we generally don't see this type of finishing on dials, and of course purple isn't a really common color for watches. If you notice, the watch is symmetrical from every angle, and humans love symmetry. Another factor that makes integrated bracelet watches extremely popular is comfort. I don't know if it's how the watch sits on the wrist or the continuity of the bracelet to the case, but in general, all integrated bracelet watches are incredibly comfortable. To begin with, the folks at Venezianico decided to make this the thinnest watch they've ever made, and impressively, it measures less than 9 millimeters with an automatic movement, which is actually rare to see. Of course, they couldn't include a second hand to maintain that slim line, but the fact that the case isn't very high makes this watch very comfortable, and it sits perfectly on the wrist. Generally, integrated bracelet watches appear much larger than they actually are. The size of the case can be deceptive because what defines what the watch feels like isn't the case itself, but the way the bracelet protrudes outwards. You see? This curve right here. But that same curve gives the watch the perfect contour to your wrist, making it feel almost custom made. The fact that the bracelet is integrated also gives a sense of greater durability and robustness to the watch. The bracelet doesn't really have much play, and everything feels like a single piece. In fact, I don't know if this happens to you, but with regular watches, you can always distinguish between the watch's construction and that construction of the bracelet. But in the case of integrated bracelet watches, that really isn't the case. Everything feels like one piece with the same quality and robustness. Now, let's get into a slightly more controversial topic, which is design. We could say that this watch takes a bit of inspiration from here and a bit from there, and the same can be said for chronographs and dive watches. However, I think that at least in this case, Venezianico has managed to impose its essence by taking the trend of integrated bracelets and adding that Italian touch that I think we all recognize. Undoubtedly, having an integrated bracelet makes you think of much more popular and expensive models. But I believe not many people will make the mistake of thinking you're wearing a watch worth $50,000 or $100,000. It is perfectly identifiable as a Venezianico and an original design, and that's what really stands out. I know people will say I always praise the brand, and they'll probably think I'm being paid, but I'm not. They just sent me the watch. But believe me when I say that the build quality of this watch is extremely good. It makes me happy to see that more and more of you are actually trying the brand and buying it, because you can actually see the quality and feel the finishes that they have. It is really important to remember that Venezianico is still a very young brand, and they are doing things that are revolutionizing the industry. If I had to criticize something about this watch, it would be two things. One, the lack of a seconds hand, which I already clarified is to keep the watch much thinner, but I would have liked maybe a small seconds at the bottom of the dial. But I think that's just my personal tick. I need to see that the watch is working, probably stemming from a vintage watch that I had that would randomly stop, and that gave me a bit of trauma. And second, I would like to see the development of micro adjustments for the bracelet, so it can be changed throughout the day. Later on, they will introduce rubber strap, which at least in the renders look very good, but in this case I think they didn't arrive in time for this review. In general, for the 800 euros you're going to pay for this watch, I think it is an excellent value proposition. It competes exactly in the same price range as the Tissot PRX, but in my opinion this watch feels much more expensive. I've said it before, and I really like my watches to feel premium in terms of finishes. The facets of this watch are stunning, and the fact that it measures less than 9mm in thickness makes me feel like it's an expensive watch. And when you add the Genève striping finishing on the dial, it elevates this watch to another level. That's my opinion, but let me know what you think. And guys, if you're watching this review, it means that the watch is already live for sale, so please go to the Venezianico website, which I'll leave down below, and if you want, you can buy this watch.